I've made a few sharpening jigs and some have worked better than others, and I've tried a few different things. This one here is one that I 3D printed on our 3D printer, and it was an idea that I had. I found the file on Thingiverse, and at first it looked pretty promising. Put it together with just some stuff I had around the house, so this piece of steel right here wasn't quite the right size, but I was able to make it fit, and then it fits on some 608 skate bearings. But the problem I was having is there isn't that much rigidity in the 3D printed plastic, and the dovetails that are right here aren't quite big enough for this chisel. You can see it's basically sticking out and it doesn't actually fit into it. So I decided to fix all my issues in one and machine one out of some steel. So I have some thick pieces of steel here. I was able to machine them with some nice big dovetails, and what this does is it solves a lot of my rigidity issues with these big steel guide rods right here. These are made out of stainless steel, and then the body is made out of mild steel. So it's pretty beefy, and there's really not much flex at all in the system. And then I have this stainless steel roller, right? First, I'm going to make sure the stone is flat. This hone has diamonds embedded in it so it can cut the whetstone. I'm doing this underwater, so any of the debris that comes off of anything I'm sharpening is just going to get evacuated right into the water. What I'm sharpening right here is a planer blade from an old Stanley. Trying to keep the strokes as long as I can and just make sure I keep it controlled. I don't want it to be really pushing to one side or the other yet. That's something you do a little bit at the end whenever you're sharpening a plain blade. You add a little bit of a curve to it, but for now I just want to keep that straight. I can already see that's giving it a nice edge, but I want to take this down where it kind of works out all the chips in the blade. Whenever I resurface the stone, basically what I'm doing is I'm also sharpening it because I'm bringing fresh grit back to the surface of the stone. So right now you can see it's really starting to form an edge right here, but in the middle there's still a low spot, so I need to keep sharpening until all that's gone. Typically what you do is you start with a coarser stone like this one and then work your way up to a finer stone. And typically if you had a full set, you would have a lot of different stones in between. I'm just gonna make this jump from this coarser one here to this smoother one. I'm just gonna have to spend a little bit more time on this smoother one. I've got the edge all cleaned up, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch up to the next grit. We'll flatten this up and then start. One thing I've had to do is, since the stones I'm using are the exact same size as the planing blade, and the corners are a little bit rounded off, whenever I start up here, I have a little bit hanging off, and then as I come down, I slide at that angle, so by that time I get everything. So I'm kind of sliding at a little bit of a diagonal whenever I'm going across the stone so I can cover the whole blade. Right there is a really nice looking edge. Next, what I'll do is flatten the bottom side here because there's a little bit of a burr underneath there. So I'll basically just set this on the whetstone and move it back and forth. I'll stroke it on some leather to remove the burr. The paper test is always a great way to test the sharpness once you're done. So far, I'm really happy with the way that this has been working, and the way I designed it is there's actually two dovetails. There's a larger dovetail right here, and then I added a smaller dovetail right there, so you can sharpen smaller blades. So if you've got a smaller chisel, you can close this in on the smaller dovetails, and you can get some small blades in there that otherwise you wouldn't have been able to clamp onto.